Before I say anything else, let me tell you, we're joined this morning by our city council also. We've got our Mayor Pro Tem, Shannon Hayes. Just raise your hand if you would, Shannon. Joe Blocker. Cindy Brown, who, you got a seat, did you? That's good. All right. And let's see. Oh, there he is, Harry LeBlanc.
Hiding over here, yeah.
I thought he came in, but I didn't know him. And Andrew Rensich. All right. Man, they were hiding all over the place on me. Anyway, this is second time for most of us. It looks like the crowd's a little bit bigger today than it was the last time, so that's a good thing. As you probably know, because you've probably been following the news as much as everybody else, we have, for all practical purposes, purchased the Foxwood Country Club here. We come up with the money, we've signed a contract, and we'll be closing. And y'all know how those closings go. They can drag on for a little bit. So I believe it's going to be sometime next month.
We'll talk about the details.
Okay, all right. So anyway, you know we're in that process. And so to update you what our future plans are, I'm going to turn you over to the city manager, Tim Bolduc. So, Tim, you got it.
Well, good morning again. Thank you all for coming. I know that giving up your Saturday morning is not always good. We do these on the weekend because if I don't do them on the weekend, then everybody says I can't get here because of the traffic. So we wanted to make sure we provided the greatest opportunity for people to come out and hang out with us and hear kind of what we have to say. I think it's great that all the council members are here today. I would invite you to, I'm going to be as quick as possible and then I'll answer as many questions as you want. Those of you that were here the last time know that I'm very straightforward. I'm going to tell you the facts just like they are, where we are, what the plan is, and then answer any questions that you have. We're not afraid of any of them. So, but I do. So I'll get through it as quick as you want me to get through it. Once we're done, then I do recommend you get a chance to meet the council members, especially if being a part of being inside the incorporated city limits of the city of Crestview is going to be something that is a part of your future. You may want to know that, so you know where to find them. Right? So this morning, the point of the mayor touched a little bit on it, and I'm going to give you some very specific details about where we are in the process, how the process works. The mayor made the statement that for all intents and purposes, we have purchased the property. There's some, we are under contract, but we're going through our due diligence process right now, and this is a part of that process. So we absolutely can purchase it. We probably will purchase it, but some of it's going to depend on how this conversation goes and then, subsequent meetings that I have with our council members following this. So my whole thing from the very beginning, what I've told you all is that if the plan is a good plan, it should work on its own, right? And so if it makes sense to you all and it makes sense to us, then it's something that we should be working together to try to accomplish. So you'll see that I've got on here the Foxwood annexation program is about working together. This inlaid map you'll see a little bit later on, but these are the 141 properties that are a part of this conversation, this initial conversation for annexation. So as we work our way through today's agenda, these are the four things that we're going to talk about. First of all, I'm going to update you on the purchase, what we've done, what we have still to do, where we're at in the process, and what completion looks like. And then I'm going to talk to you about to sewer or not to sewer. One of the questions that a lot of the people had the last time I was here is how much would sewer cost? Can you provide a sewer? And what does that mean to me? And what are the rates? I'm going to walk you right down all of that process today. And then we'll talk about how we would accomplish it, what would motivate us to accomplish it earlier, what would motivate you to accomplish it earlier, all of that kind of stuff. Then we're going to talk about the plan moving forward. What is our plan? I love it when, the one thing about my job is it never ceases to amaze me what rumors can generate and how much leg they will get out in the public. My favorite comment so far is, when I was in college, one of my professors said, words have meaning, right? And so, and he used to beat that into our heads all the time. So you guys received a letter that was almost identical to the previous letter that you got for the first meeting, and in both meetings it said possibly a 9-hole golf course. But the term possibly has really created, in the second letter, has really created some concern. So we're going to address that very specifically about what we mean when we say the term possibly. It's not what you think we mean. It's not that anything's changed. It's not that our motivation has changed. It's just, I don't like to make promises that I can't keep. So I want to make sure that everybody understands the full measure of the risk as we all enter into this agreement, and then we work together to get the best possible solution. So we'll talk about the plan, and then what's next? How is this process going to work? So at the last meeting, as we expected, we did not get 100%, oh my gosh, I can't wait to move into the city, let's sign us all up tomorrow. Well, I would have loved to have ended the meeting with that, but that's not what happened. So we had a couple of properties that were pretty adamant about not just coming in. And so when that happens, it changes the dynamic of how we accomplish the goal. So if everybody gets on board, then we do it all as what we call a voluntary annexation. We sign a bunch of agreements, you guys hold us to a whole bunch of stuff, and we go forward that way. If we do it, if that doesn't work out, then we go to a vote. Which we'll talk about exactly how that works. There was a lot of questions about who votes and how many votes do I get and all this kind of stuff. I can answer all of those questions today. And so we'll talk about where we're going from here. But at the end of the day, what it appears is that we're going to go to what's referred to as an involuntary annexation process. The term involuntary sounds a little abrasive, but the reality of it is, unless you have 100% participation, or there are some other, you know, you can get 70%. There's some other ways we could accomplish it, but it's not realistic. It's termed involuntary. So you can have one individual out of 141 that don't want it. Then we go through the process that's called an involuntary annexation. So this is the schedule for today. Update on the process, or on the contract. So I explained to you when I was here previously that the city of Crestview was working together with the bank to try to purchase the property. My very first week here at the city of Crestview, I was asked to, if I thought we should buy Foxwood, because Foxwood was on the market, we should go buy Foxwood. And so, is that in the way? Okay, sorry about that. So I was asked, should we buy Foxwood? And my immediate answer was no. Municipal government doesn't need to be in the golf course business. So no, we don't buy it. But as things developed and we began to realize what it was shaping up to become, I began to get developers that were coming in to talk to us about what they were going to propose to go onto the Foxwood property. And then we began to develop our strategic plan, our goals and objectives for the city. It became more evident that this might actually be a good idea. And then towards the middle of last year, and for those of you who don't know this, we are recording this. It will be available. We'll figure out a way to get it out on like a Facebook group or something like that. So anybody who's not here, you want to share it with, you'll be able to do that. Plus you can memorialize what I say so that you can come back later on and go, wait a second, that's not what you said. Which is why we use the word possibly. But anyway, so about the middle of last year, I was contacted by the bank and informed that the bank that has the land holding company that holds this particular property is selling or is merging with another. At the time, they were being sold. Now they're in the process of a merger. But no matter what happens, the bank does not keep the land. One of the primary reasons that the bank is merging is because of its net cash position. You have to have a certain amount of cash on hand. If you have a whole bunch of land and not cash as a bank, that doesn't really work out. And so in order to entice another bank to merge with them, there has to be a reduction in the land assets and convert them to cash assets, okay? And so what they do is whenever this happens, they take all of the land holdings that a local bank owns, and a land holding company will pick it up. And so they set a value to each piece of property, because one of the things I'm going to get, or I have already gotten, is why did you agree to pay that much for the property if the property was good, if the bank was having to get rid of it? And I'll explain that to you. Because every piece of property in that land portfolio was assigned a specific value, all right? And so if the city purchased the property or made an offer woefully below that value, it made it more difficult for the bank to merge. So we had to sit down at the table with them and look at what was a realistic value for this property that made the cash side, because for the bank that is leaving the deal, First City Bank that's coming out of the ownership of this land, it doesn't matter to them whether it's cash or land, because whatever the value is, they're not going to take the cash home anyway. And so when we sat down at the table, we had to come up with a number that was a reasonable number for them to accept and entice them and the purchasing bank to go ahead and say, yeah, we agree that that value is right. But we were in competition with a landholding company that was looking at the whole swath of their properties, not locally held, and with no real local vested interest. And so when we started looking at it, we're going through all kinds of changes at the city. And one of the things that's going on in the greater city area is the east-west connector and the bypass, which we have some pictures of up here, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that towards the end as well. But as I look at how the city limits of the city of Crestview will continue to shape, it was important for us that we took a good hard look at this property. It's beautiful, for one thing. And when it's maintained, it's beautiful for sure. It has great eco value to the area. We are looking at, when we talk about the idea of bringing outside money into Crestview and in the sense of tourism, we're not destined, we're not interested in spring breakers and that kind of deal. What we're interested in is in like the ecotourism value of it, or maybe sports recreation program opportunities. This piece of property offers both. Another one of the questions that I get all the time is, what are you going to do about all the trees? Are you going to chop all the trees down? All of that kind of stuff. The plan that we're proposing is a plan that allows us to develop this rec center, between the golf course and the rec center, without having to just come and mow all the trees down. I've got a real cool video I'm going to show you in just a little bit, which is what Shoal River Golf Course looks like right now, where they've gone through and have begun to build the properties. As a matter of fact, for the sake of time, I'll show it to you right now. When you go out to the Shoal River Golf Course, this is what it looks like right now. Because what's happening is they've taken the golf course itself and they're turning it into a subdivision. If we don't do something to secure the environment here at Foxwood, this is exactly what it's going to look like. The only difference is here, the soils are of such condition that each of the developers that I've met with have not been able to reach the economy of scale necessary to develop single-family lots. And so the natural progression for it, in fact, as soon as we agreed to the contract amount for Foxwood, the bank told me, hey, I've got a buyer that wants to buy a piece of that property from you before we even close, which I didn't tell these guys yet. but the reason that they want to buy it is because they can put a lot of density there if we allow them to come in and do it like an apartment type complex. But if we do an apartment complex, what happens is parking lots, buildings, all of those things take 100% precedent over the actual trees and just the land and all the environment that's around it. That's not what we want to do. We don't think that's the highest best use for this property, and that's why we said we did exactly what I told you we would do before, and we kind of put our money where our mouth is and came up with an offer for them. So that's where we are on the contract. Oops. All right. So that's where we are on the contract. The city made an offer of $1.2 million. The bank begrudgingly accepted it. So we currently have an offer that has been accepted. We are in our due diligence period, which means we can walk away if we decided that we needed to. That's not our preference, but we could. The bank is currently in the process of a merger. When I talked to you the first time, they were being bought out. They're not being bought out at this time. They're in the process of trying to merge with another local bank. But no matter what happens, the land goes away. And we expect, as the mayor stated, to be able to close sometime in early April. We got acceptance on the contract from all three parties that are involved, that are necessary to do that, the existing bank, the future bank, and the people who tell the banks what to do. And so our contract has been agreed upon, and we expect to be able to close in early April. And we got the money. We went and borrowed the money, so we have the money in the bank. So that's where we are on the contract. Is there any, well, let's do questions at the end, but if you have questions about the contract or where we're at in the purchasing process, keep them and we'll talk about them at the end. So the next question was to sewer or not to sewer. I thought I'd go ahead and show you some pictures that I took of your neighborhood. This stuff right here, hopefully we don't know whose house it is, although I'm sure we probably do. But this stuff right here, this is not, this is not where somebody spilled their water bottle. This is a product called septage. And what it is when you have a septic tank, your septic tank processes, there are little microorganisms that eat the stuff that we leave inside the septic tank. It processes it, the water rises to the top, it goes out into a drain field. The drain field then soaks down into your, this is a very simplified process, explanation of the process, but it drains into your ground. And when your ground cannot handle the amount of water that you're getting, this is what you see. So what you're doing right now is you drive through septage, which is the output side of sewer, untreated output side of sewer. You drive through that, you drive into your garage, you walk in it, you walk in your house, and all that good fun stuff. So do we do sewer or do we don't do sewer? That's something that's coming regardless. I was trying to get a copy of a receipt for somebody who recently had their septic tank inside Foxwood upgraded, but I just ran out of time. But where you're at right now, we spoke to the health department about it as well, and where you're at, excuse me, where you're at with your septic system is that the soils that are in this, the same reason that the developer on the front side can't put a bunch of single-family lots in because there's soils issues, the same reason some of you that played the golf course are telling me you got to be careful because the golf course is wet, is the same reason that you're seeing the septage come out on underneath and out onto the top of your road. Is because your soils are not capable of absorbing at the rate that you guys are producing. And so, and especially when it rains like it's, and these pictures were actually taken before the first meeting, so it wasn't after all of this rain. This is just somebody took a shower. And this is what you got. So when you go, what's that?
We've called the county out to make determinations on that, and they said that it's groundwater, that it's not.
That's right. It's spring water.
Okay.
Spring.
This is not sewer. If it was sewer, there'd be done something already done about it.
Okay.
You don't,
All right.
can't pull my leg. I'm no more than that.
Okay. Well, what I'm telling you is, who's had their septic tank updated lately? Anybody? All right. How much was it?
45.
4,500. How much? 7,000.
350.
That was a pump out. So on the 7,000, why did it cost so much?
Well, I put a whole new drain field in with 10 lines.
Right. Why did you have to put a drain field in?
Because it's a mound system.
Right. Why is it a mound system? Because the soils don't work.
No, because it's clay. There is a clay layer that it will not filter through the clay layer.
Right.
Now,
So,
if you put an aquifer and a drain, French drain, it'll drain.
okay. Well, I'm telling you what they told us. So this is what you've got. So here's where we're at. If you choose to do sewer, and these are difficult to see, but I'll put this slide back up later. This is a breakdown that does a rate comparison of what our rates are versus everybody else's rates. That was one of the questions that we got last time. So we did a study assuming that there was 7,000 gallons of water and sewer. It includes everything from Auburn water to all of our surrounding jurisdictions, including Okaloosa County water and sewer. So it gives you a perspective of what it is for ours versus what it is for theirs. And what you end up seeing is that, so like on a 7,000 gallon house, the city of Crestview's water, just water only, runs about $19. Okaloosa County, if it's 7,000, only runs about 32. And then it just depends on how many gallons you use moving up from that. So this is something that as you're making the decision as to whether or not you would want to do it, that's what you'd have to look at. When you go, and these two obviously you can't see either, but there's two different options of how we would provide sewer for you. There's what's called a low pressure system and a gravity system. The low pressure system is a system where we convert your septic tank into a small lift station, and it actually pumps the sewage out of there into a force main or into a gravity main that runs down into our main system. That's the least expensive initial way to do it. And then a gravity system is where we come in and we put gravity lines throughout the entire neighborhood, and then you don't have pumps at each of your houses. The difference between those is it's a little over $1 million to put, or it's $880,000 to put it in, to put the low pressure system in, and it's just over, right at $2 million to put the gravity system in. So what we would do is we would assess what do we think it is over the long run or the short run. In the areas where we've done this, like down off of PJ Adams, we have some subdivisions that have the low pressure systems in. The city maintains the pumps. So that part of it is not so much a big deal to you as it is to us. But we went ahead and calculated those two options. If we choose to, if someone is inside the city limits and the neighborhood taps onto the sewer, then what they get charged is exactly our impact fees, which is about $2,900. If somebody is outside the city and a neighborhood comes on board, then we take the total cost and they pay whatever that is divided by the number of lots. So at $2,900, it actually offsets by about, we still have to pay, the city would have to pay out of pocket about $400,000 if we did, even if we did the low pressure system. So What I'm getting at with that is whether inside the city or outside the city, it has some control over how much you would pay if you actually paid for sewer. Also, if we chose to install sewer, if we do it, we would do it on a way where you, as a part of the agreement, we would do it so that we ran the lines and you can connect when you need to connect. So instead of paying the $4,000 for the septic tank when the time came, you would then connect to your sewer system. We can do that, we do it a couple of different ways. We can do it on an assessment basis, or we can do it on a cash upfront basis. It really doesn't make any difference to us. We're gonna be doing some upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant in the future. So if we're going to do, if this annexation becomes a reality, then what we're going to do is go ahead and fund that part of the process at the same time. So this gives you just a general idea of what it costs. Somebody said, how much would it cost to run sewer in there? It runs us anywhere between $1 and $2 million is what it's going to cost the city to run the sewer into that area.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
If you do the low pressure thing, did I hear you right that you would put a pump in the septic tank?
You put it depends on how the design's done. Sometimes they use the tank as actually their where they do the pumping from. We probably won't. We'll probably do what's called a wet well, a small little tank that's inside the ground. Retire your septic tank and put a pump system out
Okay,
of there.
now when the septic tank's retired, does that mean we have to pay to dig it out and fill in?
Yes.
That area there?
I'd appreciate the opportunity to answer the questions on behalf of the city. That would be good. So if we do this as a part of the agreement, if we do it as a part of the agreement, then whatever the cost for connection is, the city, whatever is permitted. So if we end up saying that the septic tanks get abandoned, that'll all be done as a part of the original process. And if you're inside the city, it's $2,900. And that includes all the stuff that it takes to get you from no sewer to sewer.
Will that include getting rid of the mound?
Getting rid of the mound?
Yes.
No. So you're saying taking dirt off of your property?
Yeah, taking my septic, I have 2 septics in my systems in my yard.
Right,
The other is a mound system, and I have 2 tanks
right.
at 1,200, not 7. So
At
go
1,200,
and
not
do
7.
this.
I'm not sure I follow what you said.
Gallons,
Oh, gallons, yeah, okay.
okay? You're just gonna put a pump in one and leave the remaining of whatever it is, it's there. Because a lot of homes have these mounds on them that are
Right,
like 6
right.
feet tall.
Right.
Well, all that water runs off of those and drains out into the streets and other people's yards and creates a big swamp.
Right. What we would do is whatever the permit to connect required, which would definitely mean that we would have to cancel, unless we used the tank itself as the reservoir for the pump.
Right.
Then we would have to retire the tank, which means that it gets filled with dirt, it gets broken out, that kind of stuff. We're not going to come and pull the tanks out of the ground and remove dirt. We're not going to do that, no. Now, I'm sure we'd work with you to do it if you wanted us to, but as a part of that initial connection fee, we could not afford to do that.
Yeah, my problem is that it just creates a big mound where all the water
Sure.
collects, and where I live on a cul-de-sac.
Right.
It goes to 3 different houses and their properties. And
Right.
right now, I'm draining somebody or
So-
flooding.
So if you wanted to, I'm sure that we could work with you to do it. And at the time that we did it, it would be cheaper than doing it otherwise. But we definitely, that's not something, what we would do is whatever is required by the permit, that's what we would do. So if the permit requires us to fill it, just abandon it, if it required us to remove it, we would remove it, but I've never been in a situation where it required removal. So, any other questions on that? Yes, sir.
Real simple.
Sure.
If my septic's working fine and not overflowing, do I have to connect to the sewer?
No. That's the.
That would be the.
Well, right, that's the point of this conversation. We're at a place where we'll sit down with you guys and say, okay. if
Can you
wanna
repeat his
connect-
question?
I'm sorry?
Repeat his question. I
Oh,
couldn't
his
hear the
question is, if his septic tank is working fine, is he required to connect? And the answer to that question would be no, unless the state mentions. So what we would do is we would work out, that's why it's not a simple question. So the city would come in and say, okay, we're gonna run sewer, right, throughout the neighborhood. This is the connection fee. You've got it, you're ready to connect. If you don't connect, you wouldn't be paying the sewer fee portion of your water bill until you connect it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you would connect when it failed.
Question, if I choose to connect, is that going to be cheaper than connecting 4 years from now?
If you choose to, I mean, if the process happens as one big part of the process, yes, because you're gonna lock the price in.
Okay.
If you don't, then no. It'll be more expensive the further you go down.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, that's just the way it works. Yes, sir.
If you choose not to connect because your septic is working fine, maintained properly, and
Right.
you're not getting any runoff and there's no flooding going on in your specific area. And if you don't want to connect, obviously, you just said that you don't have to if you don't want to. If you sell the property, the new owners, when they change the act, they're going to be required to hook?
Will they be required to connect? So we are willing to enter into an agreement with the neighborhood that says that you do not have to connect until you want to connect.
So that selling feature could be part of it.
Correct. Right. So, right. Now, if for some reason the health department stops issuing permits and you guys need sewer and you go get sewer, the statute requires you to connect. If it goes past your house, you're required to connect. And so what we're saying is, and I mean, that's, that would have to happen. You guys would have to all get together. Obviously you're not going to do that. But if you did, that would be the case. What we're saying is, if we all get together and we decide to do this annexation, we're going to say, all right, we will roll the cost of the sewer into our upcoming capital improvement projects, have it available. This is the fee for you. We can either do it one time or assessed over time, but you don't connect until you're ready to connect. And you would have that in an agreement from the city. So then, that's the answer to your question, which is going to give you a lot more strength than what I'm telling you right now. Right? You're going to want it in writing. So what I'm saying is we're willing to provide that for you in writing.
The legality of it, yes, sir. But my question, I'm going to hold that till the end. I'm going to hold that.
Okay, any other questions about sewer?
Yeah, when are you talking about doing it?
The actual sewer?
Yeah, what's the timeline? What's the
Well,
timeframe?
it depends on how the annexation goes. So earliest we would do it would be like a year and a half from now. That would be the earliest case, because design and upgrades to the plant right now, we're having to make improvements because of the bypass. So a year and a half to 2 years before you would actually do it anyway.
Are you chewing up roads or going underground?
I'm sorry?
Are you chewing up the roads or are you going underground?
It depends on which way we go, whether we go gravity fed or low pressure systems. So if we do a low pressure system, it's a very low impact to the roads. If we do gravity fed, it's a much greater impact. So it just depends on which way we end up doing it. And we'll do a cost benefit on it, and that's what we'll decide at the end. If we chewed the roads up, we got to put them back together though. They're going to be if it's annexed, they're going to be our roads. So, what else? Yes, ma'am.
So is there a possibility if you go the route that you chew up the roads, that we might also be able to have gas lines run into the community as well?
Yeah, that would be the gas company's decision. Obviously, we would support working with them on that for sure. As a matter of fact, it's interesting that you said that. I was at an EDC meeting earlier this week, and there was some conversation. Were you there?
I was not, but I have spoken with them.
Okay. Well, the reason I thought it was interesting is because there was some conversation about how the utilities needed to better coordinate and run them at the same time. So, yeah. Any other questions about sewer connection, how it would work? So the short version of it is, if the annexation occurs, we're going to look at funding the ability to put sewer into. We're going to fund the ability to put sewer into Foxwood, and then we would work on the terms of how you guys connected. But we are prepared to give you the opportunity to only connect when you need to connect. So.
Tim, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this a time to ask about
Stormwater?
Yes.
I'd love to chat about stormwater. One of the questions that go ahead, what's your question?
My question is, we have Lake Dagwell down 212 Country Club Drive right now.
Right.
That you have to drive through maybe a foot of water in the center, maybe only 4 or 5 inches deep.
Right.
Clear over to the right and left sides of the road. And,
I'll repeat the
drain
question.
That drain just is not getting anything.
What
Who
would
takes care of that kind of stuff?
So-
Do we have to wait for that until the sewer work is done, or would that be done?
No. So the question is, upon annexation, I'm assuming,
Yes.
if the neighborhood is annexed, who would be responsible for the storm water? And the answer to that question is us. It's my understanding, I got a couple of phone calls about this, and actually somebody came and sat down and talked to me, and from what I understand, you guys have some retention ponds that were left to you to mow, instead of the county mowing and maintaining those properties. We have crews that do that. I've already, as a part of our preparation for this meeting and looking at our cost over benefit for the whole project, I've already had Wayne Steele and his team come out and take a look at it, and we would absolutely be maintaining the retention ponds that are not being maintained right now. That's a part of the stormwater process. So we would be responsible for that. We would do that. Also, that needs to be done anyways because it extends the life of your road. Right now, you guys are, like you said, you're running through puddles where it's holding water. So, all right. Anything else? Any other questions on stormwater or sewer? All right. Did I miss? Okay. All right. So what's the plan? The plan has not changed from the first time I was in here. Our plan is to purchase the property, annex your neighborhood, build a sports complex on the north 9 holes, and open a golf course on the south 9 holes, and open a restaurant inside this building. None of those plans have changed. The immediate, what we know now is we have a lot more information about how do we get, I've had opportunities, I've had engineering crews out here doing soil samples and all that kind of stuff, so we have a better understanding of where we are, what the conditions are, and what we need to do to move forward. So the process would happen like this. If the annexation happens and the property is purchased in April, we would immediately begin to clean the properties up. The first priority on it would be to go ahead and open up the driving range. We've already we've done some soil sample testing out there. It's super, super wet. Let's bring some dirt in. I'm used some dirt from the bypass and some stuff. We've already done some work on exactly how we would do that. But you would immediately see us improve, clean up. We'd start mowing. We'd use our prison crews, but we would get the mowing done on the entirety of the course, keeping the course open or keeping the course clean, and then get the driving range up and running as quick as we can. Clean up around here, get the driving range running. In the next couple of weeks, I expect to put out a request for proposals for the operations of this building for a restaurant. So as we approach that April timeframe, we'll have a good idea of who from the private sector has shown interest in coming in, taking over this facility and operating it as a restaurant. We have already contacted the health department about the pool. We're waiting on their report of what needs to be done with the pool itself. But it is my intention to budget in the October budget to get the pool up, to get the driving range up. Obviously, we'll get it cleaned up around here, and then begin the planning phase for the recreation complex on the north end. The golf course also, we will go out to bid in the next couple of months for someone to operate the golf course. The mayor made the statement earlier. I heard him make the statement to someone that, if it works in the private sector, then it will be working. The term possibility or possibly a golf course revolves around our ability to engage someone to operate the golf course. If we don't, that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't, but it definitely will slow the process down. So if we don't get private interest, and the deal is, for us, what happens, anybody own a business, right? You guys own businesses? Okay, so everybody who owns a business understands that there's a whole bunch of stuff associated with it that doesn't make any money. So from the day that you decide to make your decision to go into business till the time that they hit the first golf ball, there's all kinds of work that has to be done here. There's the purchase of the property, all of that. One of the benefits that we offer to a private company to run the golf course portion of it is we're willing to negotiate with them on any of the costs for the land. So they're going to get into it for the cost to improve the course. And then when the course is up and running, then we'll sit and talk about how that works out between the city and whoever's operating the golf course. We're doing that in an effort to provide incentive to bring in someone who already is running golf courses or is somebody who's already in that business to run it instead of us running it as a local government. If that completely falls through, then the next step in the process will be for us to look at a business model where we do run it, what it would cost for us to run it, and then we would make a business decision as to whether or not that would happen. If that doesn't happen, then we would turn it into green space just like it is right now. We would leave it as green space just like it is right now. We don't have any desire to turn it into anything else. At the most, it would be a passive, like the disc golf course that we have up on Northview, something like that. But we don't have any intentions of putting fields in that space or anything like that. It's intended to be, our intention with it is to do it as a golf course, to run every possible option that we can, to have 9 holes of golf. We've looked at several different options, 2 tee boxes, 2 different holes, turning 9 into 18, all of that kind of stuff that they do in some of the more constrained places where they have golf courses. All these things are things, I play really crappy golf, and in addition to that, I don't run a golf course. And so how it actually works and what we do will be based on whoever we bring in to run it. It's not going to be me that makes those decisions. But it is, without a doubt, turning that into a golf course is our top priority. Right underneath, turning it into a golf course without losing money. So if we can do it and break even, that's what's going to happen. That's the difference between us and the people who were running it before. It was a business. It's not a business for us. It's a opportunity for us to provide additional recreation to the community. And so it'll be, that's our goal. So the plan is, like I said, sports complex on the north end. What's the timeline on the sports complex? It absolutely depends on things like whether or not they do a north end bed tax and some other stuff. But if not, that's a county type decision. If not, we're talking 5 years down the road before this thing develops, before we get to the place where we actually can turn it into the complex that you see here. In the first year, we will create practice fields and things like that, spending minimal amounts of money and maximizing the use of the property. So next year, your kids would be, or grandkids and kids would be playing ball out here in certain areas where we create soccer fields, where we create practice baseball fields, and things like that that I can create without a major loss. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money that I'm going to bulldoze over, but I am going to spend some money to get this thing moving around. Because the other thing is, we need, activity is going to be good. We need activity out here as well. So we would do that, excuse me, we would do that right away. So sports complex on the north end, golf course on the bottom end, private entity restaurant here, and then we're assessing the tennis courts. Our goal, or our plan is to get the tennis courts operational for sure, at least for the short run. When we master plan it, I'm not sure that tennis courts will stay there, but that'll be a part of the master plan. And then get the pool open and the driving range open as quick as possible. So as we move into next year, what will happen is we will begin the master plan for the site. So this is just an overview. Hey, this is what we think is going to work. If you pay any attention to the news or you see anything about the way that I do things as a manager or this council has done things, we plan everything to make sure that what we do is complete. We do strategic planning and all. We've done 4 different types of strategic planning. We've done, we look at things from a master plan perspective. I'm not going to build a bunch of fields and then figure out later on that they don't fit for whatever reason. We've already had people doing soil bores so we can get a good idea of where the fields are going to fit. But we'll spend next year, I'm hoping to fund a plan, an actual design and plan for this so that then I can go out and pursue grant funds for that. The other thing about flipping back to grant funds and sewer, if what will happen also, so Thursday, the mayor and I went to Tallahassee and we currently have $500,000 as appropriation, inside the state budget to build a fire training tower. But while we were there, we were watching some of the legislation that's going on. And there's a massive push for clean water, how we treat wastewater to surface, that kind of stuff, which means that there's a good chance that they're going to open up funds in the state budget for things like conversion from septic to sewer. So it is not unrealistic to expect that, because I'm going to go after them, just like I went after this one. We went after 7 initiatives. We've got $500,000 on the training tower right now and $200,000 on the Bush House, both in the budget. Now the governor can veto them and we may not get a penny, but we go and we ask and we go try to get it. We will do the same thing with this wastewater conversion. So at that point, if we go get the grant to bring the system in, then we would just bring the system on board and you would have your tap at no cost, or whatever the difference of the cost is. So that's happened in neighborhoods before. So it's something we would definitely work on. So I think I've explained the plan. Is there any questions about the plan? Yes, sir. We'll go here and then here.
What do you have in mind for the sports complex? Day only or night also?
It'll be day and night. I mean, you'll have some night games. It's not going to be every day of the week.
Is
But
there a model down in Fort Walton Beach if we wanted to see what it looked like at night?
not that would match here. Because the one that was built in Fort Walton Beach, which I was a part of, begrudgingly to some extent, but the problem with that one is it's dead up against, it's right in the middle of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
This one here, you're going to be across the lake or across the jurisdictional wetlands that are there. The orientation of the fields. This field, we've already looked at some of this. When you get done, come up here and take a look at this. This field could potentially pose some problems to these houses. Everything else is oriented the other way. And so part of the master planning process is about protecting that. So if you take this complex that I'm showing you here, and you look at the one in Fort Walton, again, I was down there, I love those guys, but you'd have to put it in between all of your houses right here, and then try not to shine in people's neighborhoods, and that's
Right,
where you're getting a lot of the
That's my
complaints.
biggest worry is
Yeah.
that you've got those
So-
30-foot tall lights.
It's all about the design. It's all about the design. And I recognize that, and I've taken up the complaints on it, and so we definitely don't want to do that. That's, real quick, regardless, be a part of the planning process, no matter what. Yes, sir.
Sir, if you do the stormwater improvements,
Right.
stormwater, along with the sewer improvements, would that require sidewalks and gutters, or and would we require an additional water tower
An additional water tower?
for providing water to us?
No. No, we've already done the calculations on the water tower, so we don't need another. I'll get you and then you. I got you. Hang on. So the question was, if we do stormwater and the sewer at the same time, do we have to do another water tower? No. Would we have to do gutters and sidewalks? We're talking about maintaining the stormwater, not necessarily replacing the stormwater. A lot of your problem, your backup is because of maintenance, based on what I've been told, based on the guys who went out and took a look at it. So we think we can improve quite a bit of that just by keeping it maintained. It'll go on a rotation. We'll mow them all on the regular. You have an inverted crown to your road, which is a program that people used a lot, which is they don't use it anymore. And there's a reason they don't use it anymore. When you put the seam where the water sits, it creates scouring and you get potholes and things like that. If we went back, the next go around on the paving, we would definitely try to look at something different. At that point, you would then maybe look for sidewalks and things like that. So, yes, ma'am, and then I'll come right to you, bud.
So, in the scope of the plan is sewer, the recreation, the ball field, things like that, right? And
Yes.
I see you have work breakdown structures, seems to be a little if-then statements.
It is,
So-
right.
And so I was just wondering, the overall cost estimate health of the project as a snapshot right now? Are
Right.
you is it healthy, under budgeted or over budgeted? Because that would in turn trickle down to us.
Sure. So it's an excellent question. So the question was, have we done an assessment of the overall cost health of the project? And you picked up on the answer to that question in the if-thens. And so the timing for the golf course is an if-then equation. So there is zero cost health if the city buys it, turns it into a golf course, turns it into recreation. There's no way we can fund all of that all at once. I guess we could, but then we would be handing it down to you. So our long-range plan is based on what we can do right now without significant financial impact other than the purchase of the property. Offset as much of that as we can. It's a private business model that we're using as we look at this piece of property. And then the funding mechanism for the this portion of it is something that's being looked at down the road. So either because I'm not going to recommend to my council that I borrow money to build this complex before I put the police department in a reasonable station.
So in like a time phase, you're trying to do
I'm saying 5 years.
Okay.
It'll be 5 years before that goes into construction. Yeah, at best. Right. And so I'm talking about construction to build the complex as you see it.
Right.
We'll be using it between now and then. We'll do things with it between now and then, but it won't be, and again, that could speed up or slow down depending on different funding opportunities. What happens every year is that whoever is the appropriations chair at the state level sets their priorities. If for some reason the priority is ecotourism, then I'm going to go hard after ecotourism dollars, because we're going to do that. We'll have walking trails. We'll have we're going to take advantage of the way that it looks right now in the way we design and develop the project. So the other alternative to that is bed tax. We currently have a bed tax in the south end. Several of the county commissioners looked to do a bed tax on the north end. Bed tax is not something that you pay unless you stay in a hotel in Crestview. It's something that the people who stay in the hotels in Crestview pay. If that happens, it'll generate about $4 million a year. 4 million, boss, is that what it was? Yeah, about $4 million a year. If that happens, that changes the game on something like this. That expedites it and you don't even pay for it. It's paid for by tourism dollars or people who are just stopping in Crestview on their way to Tallahassee or whatever. And so that's our primary funding, one of our primary options for funding mechanisms, but it doesn't exist. And so we're going to have a plan in place and we'll be ready to implement the plan. I'm going to cash fund that and then we'll see what happens after that. So it's a complicated answer to a complicated question, but I like the question because you're thinking. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the sport complex. I'm assuming that you're probably going to build the sport complex on old number 3 and old number 6 fairway. Is that correct?
I don't know the fairway numbers. The ball fields are everything in the north 9.
Where's the clubhouse at?
Clubhouse is here.
Okay. Golf course went this way.
Yes, sir. That's it right there.
Okay. Number 6 and number 3 were down in here, and that probably gives you the best areas for building a sports complex.
Right.
You've got the driving range over here.
Which we're keeping.
Number 9 fairway is probably possibly for a sports complex also.
Right. And so I think you're in the same, yes.
They're the highest elevations. I worked out here for 12 years, I know.
Right. Which is why we haven't laid out the way we have it laid out.
The other question I have is,
Yes.
If you're going to buy the golf course, why do you need to annex Foxwood Estates?
There's that question right there. If you're buying a golf course, just annex the golf course that you buy, not our property.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
You want our tax money to help pay for it when you want.
That's
why
true.
annexing.
That's a true statement.
It is a true statement.
Yeah. So why is the annexation of Foxwood important? Because I believe that it's important for us to work together to protect what Foxwood turns into. And so you're right, we have it under contract, but that doesn't mean we have to buy it. So we have to do a cost benefit analysis. We just had this conversation. That's what this conversation was all about. What makes sense for the city? And my job as the chief executive for the city is to do the things that make sense. Our job is to provide for the health, safety, and welfare, and to create an environment that people enjoy living in, right? And so that's where recreation comes in. And so when we look at how we will fund, invest, spend on a project like this, we have to look at the big picture. Also, in order for me to annex the golf course, it has to be contiguous. And right now, it would be extremely hard for me to sell the idea that the course itself alone is contiguous. And so, also, in order for us to, my job is to make smart business decisions for the city. And so, as we look further, the more efficiencies we can create in how we provide services, operations, that kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense for us to create more curvy lines that don't include big parcels in the middle that benefit from the money that the citizens that are inside the city are spending. And, why should the question is, why would you only want us because you want us to be a part of the process. You're right, I want you to be a part of the process. And if I don't have you a part of the process, then I have to answer the questions of those that are already paying taxes and those that are already elected these individuals and say to them, I'm going to take the money and investment that you've made in your community and I'm going to spend it to protect the interest of somebody outside your community. So that's the direct answer to that question. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what the options would be if this property sold from the golf course? What is going to go on that? What are the possibilities of what's going to go on that land?
Right. So there's been subdivisions, which is just like the video I just showed you. There is an interest to put apartment complexes on there, which, quite frankly, if we put apartment complexes on there, they have to have sewer to do that. So we would, from a financial only standpoint, the city is in a much better position if I turn around and let them put apartment complexes on there because they're going to have to put sewer in. We'll figure out how to gerrymander the line to get them annexed, and their tax revenue, an apartment complex here is gonna generate a tremendous, I have a heat, if somebody wants to, come to my office and I'll show you the heat map I have that shows exactly where the ad valorem revenue comes from, and the majority of the ad valorem revenue comes from the apartment complex that's just over here off of PJ. And so for us, if it was solely a business decision, then that's where the most money is. This is not, contrary, and we're gonna get to one of the slides down here that talks about rumors. Again, this is not something that is where the city is gonna go make a ton of extra money that we're gonna do something else with. This is where we work together to try to protect a very good asset that the community has right now, which is this property. So, there was somebody over here in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Aside from the direct changes for preserving the golf course and the discussion about sewer, can you talk about other advantages that we would have as residents of Crestview versus
Sure.
the county?
Sure. So when you're inside the city of Crestview, you get our police service. We have the only fully manned, I'm not police service, you get our police service too, but you also get our fire department services, which is, we have the only fully manned, fully trained fire service. The rest of them are either part staff, part volunteer, or all volunteer. There is an opportunity to have a say. I think the biggest part, if I was in the neighborhood and having this conversation with you from the neighborhood and not as the guy who's trying to sell you the idea, my biggest thing to you would be, he made the statement, we can buy it anyways, right? And he's right. And we can build what we want to build once we buy it. Being a part of the city puts you in contact with each of these elected officials, which gives you a greater amount of influence over what actually happens with it, how those lights are turned into your backyard. I'm not going to design it that way, but I may not be here. So having a voice is a big part of it, having a voice in the process. And then our police service, the stormwater service that we provide, the road services that we provide, all of those things are benefits that you get when you live inside the city. Let me go right back here. I'll come back to you. Yes, sir.
Just had a couple of things, kind of getting back to the recreational opportunities.
Yes, sir.
We have 3 things in place right now that doesn't need to go anywhere, it doesn't need to be built. So we mentioned about the driving range already. We've got tennis courts and we've got the pool. Those just need to be refurbished, probably at a minimal cost as compared to rebuilding something.
Right.
We need to do all 3 of those as soon as possible.
Right.
They'll give our community some more amenities, it gives the whole community more amenities too.
Yeah, that was, if I didn't relay that, those are the things that were a part of the immediate plan. And right there in the back of the hat. Yes, sir.
In the first meeting, you had projected property tax increase.
Yes.
Is that pre-exemption or was that increase after homeowners exemption and stuff like that?
I don't know the answer to that question. And so I don't want to tell you wrong. So the question was, when we posted the taxes, did it include exemptions or not exemptions? And I'm fairly certain what we did is we took the number that you currently have, and then, because we took it off the tax collector's office, and then calculated what it would be. So my guess would be that would have been after exemptions, but I'm not 100% sure. And so,
the number that you're talking about is the appraiser's number.
yes.
So you base a tax based on the appraisal amount.
Yeah, but they actually got it from your tax bill. So again, set up and come see me and we'll look at it exactly. I don't want to tell you wrong. My guess would be that it was after your exemptions were already on there, because I'm hoping staff would have got the best picture possible when we came. So I'm assuming that that's probably the taxes after exemptions.
That's a big difference.
It is. It is. Anybody else? Anything else right now? Yes, sir.
A couple of things you've already brought up that I wanted to bring up. The city, which obviously you've already purchased the property, it's going to happen.
Not necessarily, but we're under contract.
All right. So if that happens, you're going to buy the golf course. You're not buying the subdivision. We own property in the subdivision. Right. So I think the reason you want us to annex is because we already pay county tax, and then we're going to have to pay city tax too. You want our revenue is the bottom line. You want revenue from us off our tax. That's the way I see it. Am I wrong or am I not?
I already answered that question. The answer is yes.
Okay, so there you go. You're going to be paying county tax and city tax, and then we're going to be under the city's thumb. Whatever
We've heard the question. Let's go ahead.
We got to do it.
We don't need to hear your question again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your opinion.
All right.
I ain't talking to you either, sir. So shut your mouth.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Go away.
There's no need for all that.
They're certainly not. I want you to answer the question, yes or no.
I answered the question twice, and the answer to the question is yes. It is important for you to be a part of this process, which includes your tax dollars, absolutely. I haven't, anybody who's been here through both of the meetings, I haven't shied away from that. That's the reality of it. Like I said at the beginning, I'm gonna tell you
Why
exactly
can't
what
you
it
just
is.
annex what you buy?
Here's the question, here's the statement, and hopefully, we have to pay for it. So the citizens within Crestview, right now, that are already residents, we're spending $1.2 million of their money. So we want to keep the area as nice as it already is, or get it back to the condition it was, but it'll also help your property values. If your property values continue to go down because it's just a grassy marsh out there, then it's a never ending. So I cannot go to the Crestview citizens and say, hey, I'm gonna go drop $1.2 million on property over there in county.
Sure. My property goes up, so does my taxes.
So here's the deal. We're gonna come here and then we're gonna go there. One thing I do want to say one thing I'll mention about that. Take it easy, guys. Let's focus. Let's be as productive as possible. So here's the deal. I've put together, as the executive of the city, I've put together the best possible plan that I can that has the least amount of impact all the way around and provides the best final product. If the citizens inside Foxwood are absolutely not going to annex, I'm going to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to fund it. I don't need all of that land to do the things that I need to do. So we'll look and see what the private sector wants to do with it. That's another option. I don't want to go that route, but it is an option. Yes, sir.
Question about the lighting was mentioned about the sports complex having
Yes.
30-foot towers and so forth. If that area is developed for apartments, they're still going to have 30-foot towers and lights.
Absolutely.
Right.
Parking lot on there right now.
So it was more of a question comment about, he just said lighting, that lighting from the ball fields is a concern, but lighting from an apartment complex would also be a concern. If we design this, there's going to be lights. There's going to be light pollution. There's no doubt about that. But we're going to design that with the least amount of light pollution to the neighborhood as possible. It just makes sense. And that's why when you look at the orientation of the fields are set in such a way, and they'll actually probably, the last conversation I had with the engineers, they actually are going to cock probably a little bit this way in order to take these lights from pointing back this way. All of that stuff is stuff that we're looking at. There was somebody in the back, I think sunglasses. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a comment. Everybody has their own opinions and relative desires and whatever is very important to them.
Sure.
The only comment I have, and it is important to me, so it may be important to somebody else, it may not. Taxes, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but if we have to pay more taxes and it gives us the ability to hook to a sewer system that improves the ecosystem and improves the ground, so that's the positive for me. If we have a ability, when the roads need to be fixed, that they're fixed correctly with gutters, sidewalks, lighting that we don't currently have. We don't get a lot of support from the county because we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So again, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but if the cost benefit analysis provides us more of a quality of life, then I'm willing to pay the increase in tax. That's just a comment. It does not fit for everybody, and I understand their point of view as well.
Sure, and that's the question you all have to ask yourselves. That's really what it comes down to. Is it worth having a say? All right. Any other questions on? Yes, sir.
I've lived here for a pretty good while, but I've about worked out of state. So this may seem like a dumb question, but I understand that you're saying that the golf course is basically a not-for-profit. You don't really need to make money off of it. You're going to try to get grants to pay for this. And that the purpose is, I'm assuming that the purpose of this whole thing is to provide something to do for the youth in Crestview.
That's one of the problems, yeah.
Well, the old man that's standing right here is not about to go play softball on the course. So
maybe.
I'm assuming that, well,
I got you.
That it's different. So because I work out of state or whatever, I do have a house here. Does Crestview not have things for sport complexes?
We do.
Or things for youth to do? Like I say, I don't know. I live here, but I've recently moved back.
Right.
I've been out of state for the last decade or so, and I'm just wondering. So this is needed for the youth. Do we not have anything for the youth?
So the question is, do we have to have this, or do we have other programs in other areas of the city that can accommodate the same type of need? Yes, we have other fields in other areas of the city, and actually we can convert some of those fields into the same type of complex that's going on here. The question is all about timing, what's best for the overall area. So is this the best location for it? Because actually I have pieces of property I could develop a complex on inside the city limits for a lot less money. Because if I'm going to protect the jurisdictional wetlands and the things that are inside this property, it's going to cost me more than if I took Old Spanish Trail, bulldozed it, and turned it into a complex, which I could do. The difference is we believe that it's important to protect this asset, and at the same time we can provide not only, because we keep saying sports complex, which is where we talk about youth and things like that, but it'll also have walking trails and then the golf course and a pool and things that are not just going to be used by the youth. So we just think it's a good opportunity. And so, yeah, there are other places that we have fields, and there's certainly other places we can build fields. You know, and if every step along the way is a fight, we may very well do that. So, in the back, yes, ma'am.
What do you need from us if we're a memorial?
I'm sorry?
What do you need from us if we're a memorial?
Okay.
I need to go after the work.
All right, so what do we need from you? Basically, here's where we're at with it. As is evidenced, we're not going to get 100% support, so we're going to go to a vote. Right? I didn't mean that, but it's true. So I'll expedite this. So we're going to go to a vote, which means that all of the registered voters within the district will be allowed to vote. For some of you, that's going to be uncomfortable. I've got some people who drove all the way up from St. Petersburg, I think it's St. Petersburg, yes, who will not be able to have a vote in this process because of the way that the statute reads. It'll be all the registered voters within the district that'll vote. This is the process. So how it will work is today we're having a public meeting. On the 23rd, we'll take the first. It is our plan to take the reading of the first reading of the ordinance to move forward with involuntary annexation to council. On the 14th of April, we expect to take that same ordinance back for second reading. If the council votes that annexation ordinance down, you will never see it on a ballot. On the 9th, we will be sending a mail out to all of you informing you. The ballot itself will get mailed out on May the 9th. There'll be a couple of ads that run in the paper to remind you, Christina Black, of what days you're supposed to be where. She gave me some grief about almost missing a day. And then on the right now we have scheduled for May the 27th for the day that is actually the election day. So it's a mail-out ballot. You'll either mail back in or deliver back in your ballot. It'll be very simple. It'll be a question: do you vote in favor of the annexation of Foxwood Estates, or do you not? It'll be a yes or no vote, and there'll be a map. We'll be providing a map that shows it. I'm not sure how the ballot works, but we're going to stick one in the envelope anyway, so you know exactly what it is. You will only get the addresses that are inside the limit. The city limits will get the opportunity to vote. You will get one vote per person, per registered voter, which means you can't have two votes per house. Black family in the back.
We're both in.
We're both in? Okay, good. I'm glad we worked that out. I figured out. No, so that was one of the big questions that we had. And so we did a lot of research on it. Unless we could get 70% of the property owners to turn around and say, hey, we want to annex this area of property, and then we would do it a different route. But I just, based on the conversations, we're going to take it to a vote. If the vote fails and we don't get it, then we cannot enact a involuntary annexation for 2 years from that point. And so what we'll be deciding at that point is what do we do to offset the expense of this purchase. Yes?
Sir, you mentioned that only the registered voters would be able to vote on this.
Yes.
So if you're a homeowner that lives out of the city, and even if there's a rental in it, then renters do not get a vote because they're not at home. They do.
They do.
So of the 141 lots,
yep,
are there going to be 141 potential votes?
No.
Or is it less than that?
Oh, potential votes, maybe, because some families will have more than one vote in the house. Because if both are registered voters. So it's another good reason to get out to vote, right? Go get registered. No. One vote per person. 1 vote per registered voter in a house. So if there's 2 registered voters in the house, they get 2 votes. And that's based on the way the statute is. Does that answer? So what I need you to do is vote, come by and see me. We'll talk about it. Make sure you're registered to vote. That one. All right, hold on.
Okay? We're gonna have snakes, which we all know are out here. Deer, which I like. We've got everything else probably. But what I'm saying is, if they're gonna mow the fairways, keep them down, and they're gonna do some other things, I think it's not a bad deal, really.
All right, let's go to questions real quick. Questions.
I have a question. So,
Thank
my
you.
mother was asking, is the purchase of the property contingent upon the annexation of Foxwood?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I know you guys want yes and no answer. Oh my God. I love babies, other people's babies especially. Yeah, it is not necessarily contingent on the purchase of the property, but on the annexation. But if the annexation doesn't occur, I have to figure out how to fund it. Yes, sir, in the black.
So basically, does this come down to either moving forward with this or expect developers to come in and purchase and put up apartment complexes?
I don't know that's, I'm not into scare tactics, man. I want you to buy it because it's a good deal. The only thing I can tell you is that I'm gonna have to answer to these elected officials on how I'm gonna fund it. And so if we annex, this plan works. The cost benefit of this plan works. There's no reason I can't do this if we annex. If we don't annex, I have to figure out how to fund $1.2 million. Because then I can't go and give the golf course land for 5 years while they get it up and running. And I can't give this space while they get it up and running if I'm having to make the loan payment on $1.2 million. Yes, sir.
I drive a truck for a living. I was top to bottom of Florida. People are coming. They're gonna come. They're not stopping.
Right.
We have a chance to control what goes on in our neighborhood.
Right.
And if we don't go along with your plan, there's gonna be, I'll take you down I-95, and if there's a flat piece of ground that's dry, they're building complexes on it. We have a chance to control our neighborhood. We have a chance to control the quality of our life, and yeah, we're gonna pay a little more, but if you look at what's going on in Florida and the big developers and the big money that's coming in, I applaud you for your effort.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And then I'll come right back to you.
You know, if we do not accept this.
Right.
And developers come in, we have some sort of interest and say-so in what the city and which way they point the lights and this kind of thing. And we got some say-so, and the city probably will work with us.
100%.
How many of us think a developer's gonna come in and give a personal damn which way the lights are? It's gonna be none. So we're going to accept whatever they give us. At least they're proposing to show us what they're giving us. And then we can either voice our opinion against it, or we can voice our vote for it.
But their say-so is gonna override your opinion.
Why is that?
Right here in the front.
It don't override yours, why would it override mine?
Is that just you got no say-so or all?
You got no say-so in what some contract.
Hang on, guys. Let's move back to the question. I appreciate the passion for sure. I'm a passionate guy. Yes, sir.
Second question, I've been involved with youth sports for 17 years. With the complex right into subdivisions, just like here, maybe a little higher.
Right.
Lights can be deflected away from the neighborhood.
Right.
It had very little impact on the city.
It has to be done. And especially, we've got plenty of distance to do that.
So
I'm gonna go here and then I'll come back to you in the back. Yes, sir.
You know, as landowners, I think the biggest thing, you know, I think most people are in agreement to this.
Okay.
Like in writing or somewhere that you can promise that we understand the golf course is back burner to a sense. You know, to a
Depending
sense.
on funding, right. It's funding dependent.
But like the fairways and stuff can be mowed and maintained
Yes.
to a level.
Yeah, I am more than happy to obligate the city in any legal way that I can obligate the city to the things that we promise you. So we can figure that out. And you know, to whatever extent I can. I can't guarantee future councils will spend money and that kind of stuff. But what I can do, I mean, we can provide a proposal of what you can expect, which I think guys, that's what we need to do coming out of this. What can you expect if annexation does occur? And you're gonna see us ramp up the campaign a little bit, so you'll see some stuff, but I'll provide that stuff to you. And the stuff that we can put in the ordinance, I think, a good example of that is if the annexation passes, in the ordinance, I'll see if I can't guarantee that if there's a way that we can legally guarantee that South 9 stays as, recreation and never turns into anything else. I'm comfortable with doing that because that's the reason we're here. There's no,
we're getting something for our money.
Right.
Right off the bat.
Right.
We're not saying, okay, now we gotta wait 5 years to get anything in revenue.
Right.
We're getting a benefit.
I'm gonna go to the back and come right up to you. I'm gonna go to the back real quick and come back to you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, because I'm in trouble. Go.
Yeah, so just hypothetically, on a house of this probably the median value of $250,000 appraised value. What is your assessment of the increase in taxes for a house with that kind of?
We have you on a spreadsheet. Contact one of these guys. We'll tell exactly what it is because we can't. It varies too much based on exemptions. Yes, ma'am.
We have several council members here today. Can you ask them if they would be willing to fund or from back nine, if they would agree to?
We can't do it here, but we can do it on the 20th. Yes. We can't do it outside of a meeting. So you can, yeah, it would, because they can't talk together about some decision they would make somewhere else. They can listen today.
What was the question?
The question was, would I ask the council members if they would be willing to fund the back nine golf course today? What I said is, we can't have that conversation in exchange with them today. We can do that, but you can ask them that on the 23rd at the council meeting. And we can get, because it's public law, it's public rules requirements, sunshine law stuff. I can't have them make some, besides that, they would be telling you that they're willing to do something. They have no idea what it would cost, because I don't know what it would cost yet. So, any other questions up front, real quick? Yes, sir.
There's 4,000 municipal golf courses across this country. As far as finding out what the operational cost would be to do it and have the city run it, you've got a plethora of information.
Well, I know how much it costs to run it. I mean, I sat in on every budget meeting with the city of Fort Walton Beach's golf course for 11 years. I know what it costs to run it. The question is, what does it cost to get from where we are right now to where we need to be, and then what is that loan payment going to be? And that's why, that's the question, that's the unknown. And I think you probably know part of that, because I think you were the one telling me to be careful. Yes, sir.
Do you have a central contact online or somewhere where we can find out all this information instead of, just trying to look at it here and there?
We'll put something together for you. If everybody's contact information is here, we'll create a link on the Facebook page. We can do one on Facebook and do a group for this neighborhood too if we wanted to, where you guys can holler at me. Those are so much fun. But we'll get a page on the website. Trey, let's get a page on the website with all the stuff that's public.
I got some questions about homeowners association covenants and all that other stuff. What will happen to it?
Okay. If somebody invites me to that homeowners association page, I'll share stuff on there as well. Yes, sir.
Nobody shows up to HOA meetings. Nobody votes on covenants. I'm the HOA president. We can't get people that own homes in this community to even answer the mail about voting for covenants to pay for it. Half the people in the community don't pay their voluntary $40 a year HOA fee. So to worry about HOA and covenants, don't even worry about it because you don't care about it now.
Okay, all right, let's keep it. I got you. One more right here, and then I'm going to wrap up. And two more, and then I'm going to wrap up. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make one comment about the benefits of recreational complexes. They don't just benefit children.
Right.
They benefit the broad range of the community. We live in St. Petersburg. They have softball groups for 50 to 75-year-olds, for 75-year-olds and older. So depending on who gets out to do what, recreation is beneficial.
And we'll have pool programs and everything. Yes, ma'am. Right here, and then I'm going to close.
Back here, the question of the other person.
It was a statement, not a question. Just said that recreation benefits not just the youth, but everybody.
I just personally, as a grandmother and a great-grandmother, want to thank the city of Crestview
for what you're trying to do to look
Well,
out
thank
for
you.
the future for our youth.
Thank you.
We really need something interesting.
I promise you, we got other things we can do on a Saturday, for real. And I could just go collect a lot of money I could collect a lot of money in wastewater. Just the tap fees alone would pay for a big portion of the improvement I need to do if I put a complex here. Apartment complex.
Voluntary annexation would take place without 100%?
We talk about it. I don't think we can get there from here.
Is it 70%? Where are we?
The statute's not super clear. I mean, if we think we can get to 70%, we will run it down to the ground and figure it out.
What's the sheet say?
Well, not everybody's here. So I would need voting members. We'll revisit that. I would love to get to that. One last thing I want to say. Here's the deal. You can't get me right at the drop of a hat because I'm a fairly busy fella. But my card is here. My staff is always available. If you have any questions, any of you that have had questions, I've sat down with several of you, met with you, I've spoke to you on the phone. If I haven't gotten to you, I apologize. But please come and see me, call me, ask me any questions you want, because the way that things like this die is because somebody that doesn't want to do it creates some rumor. And I've seen some emails about people going around the neighborhood saying that I'm some shyster from some other state or some crap like that. None of that stuff is true. It's never even in the state. What I'm getting at is we're an open door. These council members are open. Come see us, talk to us. Let's make an educated decision. And thank you all for your time. We're here to talk as long as you need us.
Yeah, I'm sorry.